Welcome to the Texas Business Broker, where we bring you Texas-sized insights for business brokers, exit professionals, business buyers, and sellers alike. I'm your host, Josh Carnes, with Line Business Advisors, and the current State Vice President of the Texas Association of Business Brokers. This podcast is your go-to resource for navigating business sales in Texas. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Texas Business Broker Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Carnes. Today, we're diving into an area that doesn't get enough attention. We're going to be talking about the issues that business owners face after the deal is done. We're talking about earnouts, non-competes, and lingering seller liabilities. These post-close obligations can be just as important as the purchase price itself when it comes to protecting your future. Joining me today is Maria Castro, founder of Castro Land and Legal Group. Maria is an experienced attorney who's worked with business owners and investors across Texas on transactions, contracts, and disputes. She sees firsthand where sellers get tripped up and how the right legal protection can make the difference. Maria, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. My name again is Maria Castro. Thank you so much for the invite.
Perfect. So, Maria, we chatted a little bit about this. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So I'm a foreign trained attorney from Venezuela. I got my JD originally in 2012. Then I moved to the United States and I did, worked as a paralegal for many years. Finally, I was able to do my master's, my LLM at UT here in Austin in cybersecurity, which makes it even more interesting because I have that business umbrella with the cybersecurity aspect and the privacy regulations and just a little bit of everything and anything, under the business umbrella. I like to see ourselves as a comprehensive shop. We like to help business owners to grow in the areas that, we all know that businesses are moving forward to, cybersecurity, protections. How are you keeping your clients' data and your employees' data safe as well, beyond the contract dispute and, how to protect if want to transfer their business to someone else.
Let's dive right into today's topic. What are some of the most common issues that you see business owners face after they've sold their business?
I think that the main issue that I see is whenever they want to be so friendly that they're not taking care of how the post-sale is going to look like. If you don't have a clause that's protecting, for example, your non-compete. Because if you're selling a business to me and you want to cap me for the next 10 years, one, that's illegal. And second, it's not smart for you to sign it or me to sign it. And that's when I see that the disconnection starts happening. Whenever they have the post-sale, but they're not being realistic just because they're desperate to sell the business and get rid of it.
You kind of spoke to earnouts. Let's talk with that. Can you break down what an earnout is and why most buyers use them when they're buying businesses?
Yeah, basically it's whenever you're paying part of the purchase price after the fact. So let's say that you want to sell a business to me and you're telling me that you're making $10 million in revenue per year. But then whenever the transfer happens, I realize that it's actually $1 million. That's a problem. And that's exactly why people want to have the earnout clause in it. That way you have, at least a period of time in where you can actually prove that the business is what they claim to be. At the same time, you have audits that I recommend having on the regular for whenever, big businesses are being sold like that. That way you're protecting actually the investment that you're making.
Yeah. No, I agree. We see earnouts all the time when you hit on the point, those valuations are kind of questionable and the seller believes the number is this and the buyer doesn't. Earnouts can be used to bridge that gap. And so they're extremely valuable for buyers because they protect them on purchasing an overvalued company. But what are some of the pitfalls that sellers should look for when a buyer offers them an earnout?
One of the pitfalls that I see in general is whenever they have, me as a seller, I sell the company to you and I'm telling you, hey, I'm investing $1 million in marketing and I'm getting $10 million in revenue from it. But then whenever I do the transfer, you decide that you're going to cut back on the marketing budget. Well, that's a problem. There's a disconnection again. Because, of course, you're going to start, let's say that you do $100,000 in marketing for the next year. Your revenue drops, and then you want to blame it on me. That's one of the disconnections that I see, because I gave you the business plan. I told you exactly what the blueprint it's looking like for you to get this amount of revenue. And I think in those cases, it's good to have an attorney involved.
Yeah.
Because, you'll have a lot of negotiations going forward from that point, on.
It's funny. We're always looking for pitfalls because we represent sellers. So we're always looking for those pitfalls. I actually have not thought of that if they cut marketing once.
Yeah.
So that's a great one. Have you seen situations where sellers end up leaving money on the table for poorly negotiated earnouts?
Definitely.
What does that look like?
It looks like not having a decent attorney to help them with, to help them with the negotiations. I think like in any business, not even in, like in any type of business, I think people want to save money and they want to, try to do things between the seller and the buyer directly, and they don't contact counsel on time. Ideally, we're helping them from day one, but I also have come in whenever things have gone south. And that's interesting because now I have, some legwork to do. Now we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to go back and start talking about how that earnout clause was looking like in the beginning, the intent of it. Because if you have an earnout clause, doesn't mean that in the real life it's being applied as y'all wanted to, or as the parties wanted to. Same with the non-competes. That those are, I think that's the main issue. Whenever people want to save money, they want to have a, $5-10 million deal, and they don't want to engage counsel early on.
It's funny, whenever someone says they're going to try to save some money on counsel, they end up getting about 10 emails and letters from us stating we advise against it. We are not your legal counsel.
Yeah.
You are going to lose money. So if you are selling a business, no matter what size, use legal counsel. From a legal standpoint, what are a few things that sellers should look for or can work with their attorney to do to protect themselves on earnouts?
Be clear about the earnout. I mean, in any contract, the other party has to understand what the intent of it is.
Yeah.
Because if not, we're going to have a disconnection. And then later on, 6 months down the line, whenever they think that the deal is not going like they expected it to go, they're going to start saying like, oh, I actually didn't agree to that clause because I didn't understand. I didn't see the full extent of it. That's when the meeting of the minds in contract law will come into play, and it gets interesting.
Now, it's one of the big pieces that we've learned from over the years is what is the intent of it. And we always believe the intent is to protect the buyer, but how do we protect the seller in that? And so it's, we believe it's little things like tying the earnout to top level revenues, not bottom level, not SDE, right? They can be extremely skewed.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
You hit on non-competes a little bit ago. Texas now has its own rules on non-competes. What makes our newer non-compete laws unique here in Texas?
Texas is flexible. I mean, they're not going to throw away a whole non-compete because the intent of it wasn't understood. The courts are going to do something that they call the blue pencil. That's how they call it out there. But basically, the court, it's going to reinterpret what the party's intent was at the beginning. And they're going to limit it by the area, the scope, and the time limits. Because, of course, I cannot limit you on whatever you've done for 10 years. It's like, hey, if you've been doing this for 10 years and you sell me your business, I'm going to be like, you cannot do this for the rest of your life. It's illegal, most likely everywhere.
Yeah.
So they do that. They try to reinterpret what the parties agreed on at the beginning, and they try to bring it and tone it down whenever possible. And the whole non-compete is not going to be thrown away, basically.
So if the whole non-compete is not going to be thrown away, what are some of the more enforceable clauses that sellers should consider or take into effect when signing a non-compete?
The physical or geography space, like, hey, one thing is for me to tell you, you cannot do this activity for 3 years within 25 miles from the original business that you sold, versus, hey, you're not going to be able to do this for the next 20 years in the whole state of Texas. And, it's different. So I think that's the most important part of it. People need to be realistic whenever talking about non-competes. And whenever you Even if you thought that you signed a non-compete that was too broad,
Yeah.
contact counsel. It's never too late.
That's always, I think that's a good thing is that you hit on is talk to your attorney, especially the attorney that helped you draft it, of what the intent was and how to work around that when you need to.
It's like in any contract, deal. Just make sure that the parties are on the same page, that they're understanding of what's going on, and that the intent is there for everyone involved.
Sellers can still carry a little bit of liability after the sale. What are some of the big concerns that sellers should be aware of after they've sold their business?
That you're not tied with a clause that's going to make you liable for the next 5 years of the business. You didn't even know if the business is going to be alive, that long down the road. Ideally, I see it limited by 12, 24 months after the fact, depending on how big or small the business is. So that's the most important part. And cap it at percentages. Try to cap it at, at 10%, at 20%. I've seen things in where they have OSHA complaints, whenever the business that they purchase, and then that's not, I don't know, let's say a $3 million fine, you can cap it. If you would have said in your original clause that you were limited by a 1.5 million, liability clause.
Interesting. Talk about the things that you've seen, like OSHA complaints. What are some of the major gotcha moments in these seller liabilities post-close?
Be prepared for anything. Even if you think that you're selling a business that's clear and perfect and you have all your ducks in a row, try to cap it. I think it'll be my best advice. Try to make and get to a number that's comfortable for all the parties involved. Because you never know. I mean, I've seen things, 18 months down the line and where they're hit with that compliance. Fine.
Yeah.
These days, we're going to see a lot of privacy issues. What if you have a breach? Was the company ready whenever you sold it, or protected or compliant with industry standards as to the protection of the data of the customers and the employees? Because that's one of the other surprises that we're seeing in these deals. So you sold me your business, but you never thought about cybersecurity or privacy regulations or protections. And then I get hit with a ransomware, where I'm losing draining millions of dollars of the company that I thought was beautiful and ready to go.
Let's pivot for a second and hit on that, because in our conversations earlier, you were telling me how you are cybersecurity, and it's becoming more and more of a risk that most owners don't consider unless they're in that tech AI space. So what are some of the liabilities, or what should sellers be considering or looking for as they go to sell if they haven't focused on cybersecurity?
I will get an attorney, a cybersecurity attorney, a privacy attorney, to do an audit just to make sure. I usually personally work with a technology team. They do the implementation of whatever legal recommendations I have. I don't do any, I'm not an engineer. I'm a cybersecurity lawyer. I worry about regulations and I worry about industry standards. What are we doing in Europe in similar industries? And that's what I apply here. And I say that because the United States is still fragmented. I literally just posted an article in the Texas Bar Journal about how fragmented the United States versus Europe is in these topics, and how the regulatory landscape is going to be changing quickly within the next year or two. So I will say contact an attorney that has a team in where they can do an audit for you. That way you know where you're standing regarding your privacy and cybersecurity. How are you protecting your data today? Because I always tell my clients, your business is 50% whatever you have, in assets, and the other 50% whatever you have in the cloud. So what are you doing with the cloud aspect of it? Back in the day, we used to shred paper and shred it securely, and we'll have all these companies and shred the paper and the little lock in the bin. But what are you doing these days to dispose of the data, retain the data, protect the data? It's really important, more so whenever we're thinking about selling. And it's interesting that people are not thinking about it, but really sit down and think. What's going to happen with your escrow account if the business that I sold you, it's having a ransomware attack and where you're spending $2, $3, $4 million in trying to recover?
Kind of wrap up seller liability issues. What are a few takeaways or things sellers can do prior to or as they're getting ready to sell to really limit their liabilities post-close?
Insurance.
Insurance.
I mean, just as one idea.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, escrow account, held it for at least 12 to months. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And basically do the disclosure schedules.
Disclosure schedule. That one's pretty
Yes,
important.
I didn't want to forget. I have it here in my notes. Just make sure to, literally walk through everything that you think might be a liability down the line. I think communication, contract, understanding, and an attorney involved will make these deals smoother.
It's really the smaller, quote unquote, baby deals where people are trying to save money. It's mind blowing to me that someone would do a transaction like this without an attorney, but it does happen. I think as we just kind of wrap our conversation here, how early in the exit process should sellers be bringing in their legal counsel?
ASAP. Whenever you think about selling, start involving counsel.
Start involving your counsel.
Yeah.
Do you like to get involved prior to a letter of intent or after a letter of intent, or where are you in that process?
Before.
Before?
Yeah, honestly. I think it'll save money. You'll have a plan. You'll know, schedules will be drafted. Your insurance will be in place. Your liabilities will be lined up. And you'll know exactly, along with a team like yours, will know exactly what the price will look like.
Yeah.
And people and sellers will not be just dreaming about a price amount that they will not be able to get.
For those exit planning advisors that are listening, our referral partners are CPAs, wealth managers, and alike. How can we better prepare our clients to start thinking about these post-close obligations that they might have?
One of the things that I like to do whenever I meet with groups like yours and CPAs and people that are involved in the sale process is to involve counsel and let us go and bring a chat to them. Let's educate them. Let's educate the parties involved. And that's something that I love to do all the time. I'm really involved in the education community. People invite me. We chat over coffee. We invite 15, 20 people. We literally just exchange our knowledge. What do you have from the side of the road? What do I have from mine? And how we can combine that and make, the seller and the buyer understand how important everything is.
As we wrap up here, if you could give business owners that one piece of core advice before signing a purchase agreement, what would it be?
Understand what you're signing. People, I understand the need for both parties, one to sell and the other one to buy and get the business rolling and off the ground as soon as possible. But really, sit down and try to understand the clauses. And if you don't want to understand them because you don't have time, have counsel that really understands what you're signing and trust them. Because, I've seen situations in where people hire counsel, but they don't trust them, but then they sign all the documents and you're done. Your signature is there. There's so much we can do after the fact. I mean, if we have a too broad non-compete, of course, we'll do something about it. But what about the percentages, the escrow accounts, the insurances? That's where it gets interesting.
Well, Maria, thank you for sharing insights today. I greatly appreciate your time with us. If business owners are worried about earnouts, non-competes, or seller liabilities, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, my firm is called Castro Legal. We're available on our website, www.castrolegal.com. And we're on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we post blogs for business owners so they know their risks and, just have the information that they need.
Maria, thank you for sharing your insight with us today on earnouts, non-competes, and seller liabilities. I believe these are all areas where business owners don't always understand the risk. And I think you've given everyone insights and a clearer picture as to what it is they should be watching out for when they go for an exit. For those of you preparing for a sale, remember, the deal doesn't end at the closing table. Protecting yourself on the back end is just as important as negotiating the purchase price up front. If you'd like to learn more about Maria and her work, visit Castro Land and Legal Group. You can visit them at castrolandandlegal.com. That's castrolandandlegal.com. Thank you, as always, for turning in to the Texas Business Broker Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Carnes with Line Business Advisors, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
I'm your host, Josh Carnes, and that's a wrap for this episode of the Texas Business Broker. If you found value in today's conversation, make sure to like and subscribe below so you don't miss future insights from other industry experts. Have a topic that you'd like us to cover, or maybe a guest suggestion? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep closing deals and making an impact. Thanks for listening.